Welcome to the Jaguar Podcast, a show where we discuss all things related to Duval County's finest NFL football team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Move 42, set, fight!
Duval, baby! What's up, everybody? It's Andrew coming back at you with another episode of the Jaguar Podcast, and today I have returning guest, ex-IWFL player and NFL/Jaguars analyst, LAURIE FITZPATRICK. She has her own YouTube channel as well, Ponytails Talking Pigskins, and her own Substack as well, so go check her out there. You can check her out on Twitter too, at LAURIE FITZPATRICK. Give it up for the great LAURIE FITZPATRICK. What's up, LAURIE? How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, man? How's it going? I'm
Yeah.
so glad you brought me back.
Yeah, it's always fun talking Jags and football with you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for literally everything. I'm so hyped the way the season ended how the season ended last season, and then the draft and now upcoming season. So I'm excited to kind of get going. Everything's kind of starting again since the draft ended. So yeah, I'm excited, man.
Yeah, how do you feel about the Jags winning their division and that little playoff run? It was pretty unexpected, I feel like.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. I just didn't see it coming. To be honest, being like a resident of South Jersey in the Philadelphia suburbs area, like I kind of always knew, obviously, that Doug Peterson had what it takes to be able to lead a team, obviously, because, he won with the Eagles. And so I was excited for, the moment that they announced Doug Peterson was the head coach, because I knew he would be able to turn things around. I just had no idea that it would happen so quickly. So that was a bit of a surprise. And I'm glad that it took place like late, instead of like starting out with a bunch of wins and then like falling off towards the end of the season. Like it just happened perfectly, getting a bunch of losses early, and then them deciding, okay, we're not going to deal with this crap anymore, let's pull it together. And then they were able to kind of end the season with a high. So yeah, it was absolutely unbelievable. One of the funnest seasons that I remember. I do kind of wish there was a little bit of that Saxonville feel.
Yeah.
But obviously every team and every generation is going to be different. So, now it's more about the offensive side of the ball and less about the defensive side of the ball. I'm just hoping they're able to kind of bring that spark back with the pass rush next year,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's something I feel like we need to work on. I mean, it just didn't feel like we could get to the quarterback as much. I mean, there were games there where Roy Robertson Harris was having like a really good, I think it was the Chargers game where he had a sack there, had one in the Titans game as well. And he was kind of heating up. And then, but we didn't have anybody kind of like, an Ngakoue or like a Calais Campbell, that was just, getting to the quarterback. So I feel like we need help in the interior pass rush and even on the outside as well.
Yeah, I feel like I think it was the fumbles that they didn't really produce as many fumbles as I would have liked. What was it? 13? Or no, that was actually on offense that they had 13 fumbles. But I think it was just turnovers in general on defense that they needed to kind of produce a little bit more. Even though I think they were like top 10 with the turnover differential, but I just feel like they weren't forcing it. Like you said, with Ngakoue, he used to be able to force fumbles on the pass rush, and that just didn't happen. I think they were too reliant on the offense to kind of scoring all the points instead of really preventing offenses, from scoring points. I think it's really just about, obviously rushing the quarterback. So that was a huge need. I thought that they would kind of address that a little bit earlier in the draft. But they ended up getting some solid guys. So, we'll kind of see how that turns out when the season approaches.
Yeah, I was really surprised that, one, they obviously didn't really address the interior pass rush there with like a defensive tackle that can get upfield. I also feel like they didn't address corner, which I was thinking they would definitely hit in the first round there with like Deonte Banks and all those all those really great corners, but they didn't really do that. They went offensive tackle, obviously, because of Cam Robinson's suspension there, which was unfortunate and kind of screwed everything up. I feel like for the Jaguars, kind of. But they were able to get Anton Harrison, who's a great tackle. I think I think he'll be. I probably suspect they're going to move him over to the right side and then move Walker over to left because that's kind of Walker's. He has the most experience there. So that'll be interesting to watch. What are your thoughts on Anton Harrison?
I mean, I think he's one of the best prospects for offensive tackle, that was in the draft. He's really young, so he has a really high upside. He's not like the biggest guy. I think he's only 6'4", which is kind of surprising, when you think about like really good offensive tackles, especially like on the left side, even though he will probably end up playing on the right. But 6'4" isn't really that tall. There are, pass rushers that are like 6'5", and they don't really, get much taller than that. But generally you want to have the bigger guy on the offensive side of the ball, obviously protecting the quarterback. But he is 315 pounds, and he can move pretty quickly. So I think it's better that they have more of a pass protector rather than um like a run guy. I think Cam Robinson was a better you know I think he was better when it comes to like blocking for the run, like a run blocker. I like the fact that they picked up more of a pass protection type of guy, just because there were times where Cam was kind of a liability out there when Trevor tried to stay in the pocket. There was that one play where his knee almost got looks like
Yeah.
his ACL almost got taken off, and that was a blown block by Cam Robinson. So, he is I think he's a really good tackle, obviously, but I think it's good that they went this direction. Um, it's better that they get someone, that they can build with. These guys are usually good to go as soon as they get drafted. I wouldn't feel comfortable if they went with like a Josh Wells or whoever is on. I don't even actually
Yeah, it's Josh
know who they
Wells.
would have. Was it Josh Wells? Yeah. I do you feel comfortable with Josh Wells being in there, even if, let's say, it's only a 4-game suspension? Because I don't think they announced it, right? Or they don't think they announced it yet, right? For
They haven't announced
Cam's suspension.
the suspension yet, but I don't know. I mean, Wells he was okay over in Tampa Bay. Had some injury trouble there, but I probably would be okay with him on the right side. Would I be okay with him on the left side? I don't know. That's that because
Yeah.
that's Trevor's blind side. So I would
Yeah.
I'd probably put Walker over there and then your Wells over on the right side, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to kind of see how it all plays out. I'm sure I don't know if they're just going to give Anton, just slate him the starter, in camp, or if it's going to be kind of a competition between him and Wells.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a competition, but I do see Anton winning that. I think he did a great job in Oklahoma. He's able to pick up stunts really well. He usually gets the first punch right off the snap. He can stay low. He climbs up to the second level when he is asked to be a run blocker. So I think he does a good job there. Obviously, that isn't his best attribute, being a run blocker, but I don't know. I think he's definitely going to win that battle in camp. That will be one of the most interesting camp battles to watch, though. So I'm definitely excited about that.
Yeah, I think you're right about him being a pass, blocking, tackle. In regards to his run blocking, I think he plays maybe a little high. So I think he needs if I was going to critique it all just on the film that I've watched, if he had a little bit of a lower base, I think that he would be able to really use that leverage a little better. But I mean, he's a
Yeah.
fast tackle though. I think he ran like a 4.49 or something, or S-
Yeah,
Something
he is
around
pretty
that
fast. So he
for a
can get
tackle.
out there,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I think, with good coaching, all that stuff is fixable. So I'm really not concerned about it. And I'm very impressed with him as a prospect.
I think that actually Walker Little had an issue with hand placement early on when he was battling for the position last year, where he was putting his hands a little too high early on. And then he was basically just getting beat. He has to kind of stay low and obviously keep that leverage. And it was something that he worked on, and he worked on it and it got better. So like you're saying, NFL coaching is definitely going to do wonders. And I absolutely love the Jaguars offensive line coach. So I think he's done a great job. It's the one guy that's still, been with this coaching staff. So yeah, I don't know. I have definitely an optimistic outlook there on Anton Harrison for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, me too. How do you feel about Brenton Strange, who we picked up in the second round?
So I really like him. I mean, I think he's a viable tight end. It's just at the place they got him, like I didn't think they needed to kind of reach in order to get him. I think a lot of people had him going in like the fourth round. So that was a little shocking. I liked him, as a tight end, the different things that he could do. He is a pretty good pass catcher. He's good after the catch as well. I posted a bunch of clips of him, when the draft first happened. So he has a really good like catch point, like 50-50 like chance of getting the ball, like contested catch rate. Um, so I know that he can go up and get it. It's just he's not like the best blocker. I thought that they would go for more of like a blocking tight end. But they need that backup. And we know that Doug Peterson likes to have multiple tight ends. He used Goddard and Ertz when he had them in Philly. And they were pretty much interchangeable. So maybe that's just what he's looking for, that athletic tight end. And maybe, Manhurts will be able to do that job. Um, I'm
I
pretty
actually
sure
think, man,
Manhurt's still on. Is he still on the team?
no. So like, I think another part of this they
Oh,
picked
Luke Farrell.
why they picked Brenton Strange was because Dan Arnold, he left in free agency. He went to the Eagles, and
Yeah.
then Manhurts, I don't remember who he went to, but he left in free agency as well. So that only left Farrell, who's I think pretty much a blocking tight end. So I think it gives him just more weapons right now and depth at the tight end room, which I liked. It was one of the rare players that I got right in my mock draft. So
Oh, you did. That's awesome.
yeah, I
Damn,
got.
that's like really tough to do too.
I mean, like I didn't get the exact pick, but I had him slated in the second round for the Jags, and
Oh,
they
wow.
ended up
Okay.
selecting him. And then I think I got Fortner right last draft too. So that's
Yeah. I,
two
I
out of
mean,
the
I don't.
many mock drafts
It
that.
wasn't a surprise that they got him at all. It was obvious that they were looking for another tight end. And the whole deal with Ingram, like the money situation, what's actually going on with that, I just I don't know. I don't see him being that main starter, obviously. And I don't think there's a single player in this draft that they got outside of Harrison that is a starter, like right away, right off the bat. And I guess, you don't go into the draft, you know, expecting that maybe, but I kind of do. In terms of especially like the first round, like you should, first and second, you should be able to get some starters. And I think every single one of these guys are going to have to fight for their position. Um, and it's definitely going to be an interesting battle. But hey, I do like Brandon Strange. I like the other Penn State pick better though. So
You like what's it? Oh gosh, is it
Parker.
Parker? Yeah, Parker
Dude,
Washington
I
out
I
of
think he's gonna be so good. It's like I don't know how he fell that far.
yeah.
I don't know. I really like him, and a lot of people are saying that it's a little redundant to have him and Christian Kirk, but it's like Christian Kirk's not gonna be here forever. Um, I see him getting a lot better, and he's gonna, I think he's gonna want like a huge contract. And I'm not sure he's gonna be able to provide. That missed catch that he dropped in the Kansas City game, that deep one, I thought he was gonna really pull that in. I'm not trying to be like a downer or anything when it comes to him. I just think that it's good to have that slot competition, and I think it gives Parker Washington a chance to get that starting position in the future. I think he's good enough to be the starter of the future. Probably like in the next 2 years. Obviously, it's gonna take some time for him to get there. But I do think he's gonna be that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely liked his film. Explosive, had some really insane catches there. So
That's the best part about his game is how solid of a catcher he is. Um, there were times where the Penn State quarterback, wasn't able to get the ball to him. They were behind him, and he somehow still got his arm out there to pull it in. Like he's absolutely fantastic and such a good route runner too.
yeah.
So I think that's going to be a better turnout um, than people think.
Yeah, maybe he's one of those kind of sleeper draft picks that really just
Hey,
explodes
could be
onto the
wrong.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I think you're
exactly.
onto something. How do you feel about the secondary? That was one of my main concerns, coming into this draft, before obviously Cam Robinson got suspended, and that was a pretty high priority addressing that spot. But if they didn't draft at tackle, I saw the Jaguars drafting at corner, and not knocking our secondary, but I feel like we need someone like another corner to complement um, Tyson Campbell to lock down, those opponents' ace wide receivers. For example, when we played Philly, AJ Brown, like that guy, um, he's a number one, and I feel like, and I'm not knocking Darius Williams at all. I mean, I feel like he's a really good corner as well, like a really nice rotational piece in the secondary. But I just felt like, I don't know, I felt like we needed maybe just a little more help there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So, I thought that they were gonna maybe go after one of the top corners and just have him play the slot, the nickel. Because I mean, I don't mind Darius playing that outside, especially because when he moved from nickel to outside, like his stats went up like
Yeah, he
incredibly.
did better.
Like yeah, it was a lot better. So I think that he has the potential to be okay. Um, I think covering the tight end was more of a priority to me. So like I would have liked them to draft a safety, um, like higher up on the board. I think Antonio Johnson was where they got that position, and the Jaguars, they got really far into the playoffs, obviously, that divisional game, but they were 32nd against the tight end, like in the league. They were 32nd. So they gave up the most yards per game to tight ends. I think it was 64 yards per game to tight ends.
Yeah,
Um, and so that's just like, that's a huge, like, that's a lot, in my opinion. That's like, that's gigantic, especially with, you know, tight ends right now kind of being a bigger part of the game. Like you need to have 3 corners, and I just don't feel confident in Trey Herndon. And they gave him an extension on his contract, or they renewed his contract, whatever it was. That's the one thing that I just like did not agree with at all. Um, but in general, I do agree with you because even against the number 1 wide receivers, the Jaguars ranked 28th, giving
yeah,
up 65 yards. So I think all around they just need a guy to come in and compete. Um, Tyson is obviously a really good corner. But yeah, they needed someone just a lot better. And I just feel like the way that the draft went down and that Cam Robinson, suspension, like you mentioned earlier, I think it really threw a wrench in everything.
yeah,
They obviously knew that was happening because, that they went with Anton. Um, and this wasn't the draft that they were going to uh, be able to fix everything on the defense. It just wasn't the draft that they were going to be able to do it with. I think this was one of the worst like drafts in a while in terms of the ability of the players. Like it just wasn't a good draft in general. I think the depth, like just It just wasn't as good as it is previous years. Like there was no Sauce Gardner at all. You know, there is nobody that was even remotely close to his abilities. I mean, there was one of my favorite corners was Devin Witherspoon. He's just a pure hitter. Um, but you know, outside of his hitting ability, it's not like he was an amazing shutdown corner. And so there wasn't like those outstanding guys. So I just don't think they were going to be able to get it anyway. So I think that's why they really went offense for the first like 3 rounds. Which, you know, was surprising. And I just totally agree with you in terms of like not filling those needs on the defensive side of the ball. Um, whether that's the defensive line, that's the defensive backs, I'm pretty disappointed, you know, if I'm honest, that they didn't address that more. But then, you know, go back to the argument I just stated. Was this the draft to be able to do that? And I think the answer is no. So I think they did the best that they could. That's why I kind of give them like a B, B minus.
You know, it's
Um,
kind of weird. I was going to go with the same. I was going to go with the same grade there. So, yeah, I think we're thinking on the same wavelength there. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, and I think Darius Williams is a good corner. I think maybe can get kind of sometimes physically outmatched. You know, with
mhm,
those tall wide
exactly.
receivers. So that's really why I wanted to address that position to just get some help there. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, again, like you said, we have this Antonio Johnson out of what's it, Mississippi State or A&M? Sorry, right? Was it A&M?
Yeah. Texas A&M.
Yeah,
I think he's awesome. In terms of his like physicality, and I'm pretty sure he was like he's not a young guy either. Damn, I don't have like his draft stuff up, so I don't even know how old he is. This is just kind of going off the top of my head. But when I was watching the film on him, he guided a lot of people to where they were supposed to be. He was doing a lot of pointing, you know, a lot of talking on the field. I feel like his football IQ, just from watching the film, this is not based on anything else except for what I could see on the film. And it seemed like he knew where he was supposed to be all the time. So I think that's definitely a guy that can kind of flourish as the years go on, and his athletic ability is really good too. So that's definitely one of the picks that I'm pretty excited about. I even graded that pick like an A plus 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 because I didn't even think he was going to fall that far. You know, 5th round isn't that bad, but I really like him, and I actually have a video coming out on him that's going to be on my YouTube channel. Like he's tall, he's athletic, he's pretty quick. Like he's definitely going to fill that nickel position. I'm hoping that he's good enough to replace Trey Herndon because his size is going to be perfect against those bigger slots and against those tight ends because they just need a guy like him. 6'3", that's awesome.
yeah, and I mean that's almost like a wide receiver, right? Having like a wide receiver playing corner. That's what I really liked about Emmanuel. What was it, Emmanuel Rhodes? I think the second that guy. He was out of what was he out of? What was it, Mississippi State or Ole Miss? He went early in the
Yeah,
first round. I liked him, but the problem was he was a little undersized, so they had some concerns about him, just not being able to tackle as well, but
yeah.
because of his size. But I really liked him, and I think with Johnson, Antonio Johnson, that this is going to be a huge help for the secondary for the Jags.
Yeah, I just want to clear one thing up. He's actually 6'2", like,
Okay.
and he's almost 6'2". It's like, you know, he's only like a sliver under 6'2". He's not 6'3". So I
Okay.
just wanted to,
Check that.
but
All right.
still pretty tall,
Yeah.
pretty tall. He's physical. Um, I don't know. I really like his playmaking ability for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned a really good point there with the tight ends. Like the Jags just didn't play well in coverage against the tight ends. I mean, in that Kansas City game, it's like they couldn't cover Kelsey. It's like I don't know if they just weren't putting anybody on him, or I was like, put somebody on him, like put Devin Lloyd on him, like jam him up on the line, something.
Somebody.
It's just like he was just getting a free release every single time and going over the middle, and it just was wide open every single time.
I don't remember if it was earlier in the season when they played the Chiefs, or if it was last season when they didn't like they. actually it might have been that divisional game, but they didn't have a plan for him. They didn't double him. They didn't try to do anything to like stop him at all. They just said, okay, yeah, we'll leave him 1-on-1. You guys know damn well you don't have the personnel to be able to keep up with a guy like Kelsey, and yet you just show no plan whatsoever. It was just like really, really surprising. And then they give Trey Herndon an extension, and it's just like, I get that, it's great that you bring all these players back, but if they're not able to really do their job, and you're not trying to win that Super Bowl, you just want to get to that divisional game every single year. I don't know. I just thought that they would be more like gung ho. Okay, we're gonna trade these picks to get the best player, like Emmanuel, some guy like that. Like, instead of, okay, let's just get a bunch of depth, which I get it. You know, I don't know. I feel like I can go on forever and like contradict myself, but I don't know. I kind of wanted them to go harder with the better players instead of getting that depth, because it's not basketball. There's not a rotation.
Yeah.
You're getting the best guys to play full time.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? How often are you going to find that diamond in the rough? Like, it doesn't happen that often.
Right.
As much as, and they have like 3, 6, 10, 11 picks that they had. It's ridiculous. Why do they have so many picks? It just that kind of pissed me off.
That was a head scratcher for me. I mean, like, and I didn't understand why, going to, I'm kind of jumping around here, but Tank Bigsby, that the running back pick in what was that, the third round? I like him. I like his film. I think he's a great athlete. I mean, but why are you going to pick a running back when you have 4 running backs already? You have Travis Etienne, you have Snoop Connor, you have JaMychal Hasty, and then you have Dearness Johnson that we picked up.
They're not good, though. I mean, Dearness Johnson.
He's good.
I actually forgot about him until just now, because I backed that pick of Tank, because I don't think that their running back room is good enough, and with the way that Etienne ends plays, that's concerning. The way that he gets tackled and the way that he falls and the way that he, like, it just looks so bad every single time. It looks like he gets blown up with a hit stick at the end of each play. And it's just like, how long is he going to last? And I feel like that's why they kind of went that direction. They need to have like a backup that can split snaps. And I just don't think that Hasty or Snoop was, I don't think either of them were good enough, but Dearness Johnson.
I don't know why they resigned. I mean, why would you resign Hasty if you didn't think he was good enough? I just that
Doug
was a head scratcher.
Peterson likes to have a bunch of running backs. He had that running back from the Dolphins, Jay Ajayi, when they made their run. They had the little guy from the Saints. I forget his name. The small running back. He ended up getting hurt like halfway through the 2017 season. They had that running back that punched that dude in the face when he was in college. I'm giving like the worst references.
Was it like LeGarrette Blunt?
LeGarrette Blunt, or whatever, however you say his name. Yeah, they had Blunt. And these were all what was his name? They had another guy too. But all of those guys were starters.
Yeah.
All of them could have been starters. And I don't think Hasty is a starter. Snoop is definitely not a starter. Dearness Johnson, maybe. I think Tank could, I think he could be. We'll see kind of how he does. But he pretty much ran the entire Auburn offense. They just gave it to him like on almost every single play. So I think, he has it in him. He has the durability to be able to split those snaps. I don't know. I was more mad about Etienne's pick last year than I was about Tank Bigsby this year.
Gotcha. Okay. So then one other draft pick I wanted to talk about was Yasir Abdullah. I don't know. I think he could be another potential sleeper, draft pick there, and could,
for sure.
He gets to the quarterback. I mean, lots of speed there and can rush the outside. A little undersized, but I think he has a pretty crazy motor. I mean, he's just
Dude, that's what I have next to him. High motor,
yeah,
for sure. He runs a 4.53 40, which I think is like faster than all the running backs that are on the Jaguars offense, which is hilarious. But this dude does nothing but produce. 14 and a half tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. Like, how did I don't understand how he dropped as much as he did. 19% pressure rate.
yeah,
Absolutely ridiculous. He's going to play the edge in a 3-4 system. He's going to be inside of the outside linebackers, and if they ever put a 4-man front, he'll be able to play that edge, like if they decide to, take out Josh Allen. But I think he's definitely going to be one of those guys that, like you said, he's going to be better than what, people think. He has a really good speed rush. It's just with that stat line, how do you fall to the round that he what
I
round
think
5?
round 5. I think his
I mean, pick
size was
one.
yeah. I think his size was a bit of a concern, but I mean,
6'1".
yeah. But I
Not
can
good.
see him. I mean, we need somebody on the outside, like outside contain for to minimize guys like Lamar Jackson or like a Patrick Mahomes to be able to like just chase them down, because I feel like we don't
Yeah.
have that right now, and we need that.
Yeah, so actually he might actually come in as an outside linebacker because he can play that off-ball linebacker position. He even, I think, ran out in coverage a couple times, and he had a couple breakups in college. Like, he literally was able to kind of guard the sideline when I don't remember if it was a running back or a tight end that he ended up covering. But there's that one like really good play that he had when he was in coverage. So yeah, I definitely like that pick like a lot. That's why I feel like the second half of the draft, they just killed it, man. They just they did such a great job. Abdullah, Antonio Johnson, Parker Washington, like those 3 picks. Oh man, so solid.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So, how do you feel about this team? After the draft, do you feel like are the Jags better than they were last year? Like, how do you kind of think they fare for the upcoming 2023 season?
Yeah, I think they're going to be better. But I also think teams are going to play them better. They're not going to be, caught off guard with how good they are. It's not going to be, oh, this is our off week because we're playing the Jags. So that's going to be a little bit different. It's like how teams play against LeBron. They play their best no matter what. So you're always going to get the best of the best. They didn't really get that last year until like towards the end of the season. So I think obviously they're not going to be, a sleeper team like they were. But I think they're definitely going to be solid. I think that they only lost what's his name that inside,
Arden
what the
Key
heck
or
is Arden Key. And I think that they expect maybe Tyler Lacey, that pick, to kind of maybe come in and not like obviously just replace him. But I think that he's a versatile defensive lineman that can play, a bunch of different shades within, the interior defensive line. I think he's definitely a guy that, could be that type of player. Just in terms of his versatility, that's all.
yeah,
But yeah, only losing really him, and a couple, the tight ends. I think it's definitely a good sign. I think we're all just kind of disappointed that they didn't get that like lock in defensive player that we all thought that they were going to go after. I think every single mock draft had them taking a corner, at least in the first 3 rounds. But overall, I do think they're better. I think they're going to have a better record than they had last year, and it's solely on Calvin Ridley. That is an absolutely like ridiculous pickup that they, that they somehow that they somehow got. It's almost like, wow, like how did they really pull that off? I think it was more about like focusing on the future than it was about, okay, let's try to win the Super Bowl this season, which I don't like. I like them taking risk and risking it all for one season, because if you have a good GM, who drafts well, you'll be able to kind of bounce back really quickly. And I think they have that now, like in terms of just the coaching and their front office. So I don't agree with them not getting a really big guy in those first 1 or 2 rounds, but I think they are better overall, especially with the depth. And I think they're going to have a better outcome in terms of their record. Where they go 9-8
Yeah.
this season, or 8-9. Yeah, so I see them getting they're a post 10 win team. You
Yeah.
feel like they're post 10 win team?
I think so. I mean, it's still a tough schedule. But I think they're going to win. They're going to win more games. I think, somebody brought this up on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but they were saying, is this team going to beat Kansas City? Is this a roster that can beat Kansas City? I don't know. And I'm not just saying that to be a downer. I don't know with some of the concerns, on the defense, if this team can beat Kansas City. But you bring up points like with Calvin Ridley, and I think that I kind of keep forgetting that we have him. And I think I'm even kind of, cautiously optimistic there because, he's been out of the league for a couple of years, but I think if he can come back in full swing and be as good as he was, back in what was it, 2021, man, this wide receiving core is going to be nasty. Like it's going to be a force to be reckoned with, right? Because you're going to have
Absolutely.
Kirk, you're going to have Zay Jones, you're going to have Ridley, you're going to have Agnew there as an X factor, who can come in and make plays, and and Parker Washington too. It's going to be a really interesting wide receiving core to watch. It's going to scare some teams, I feel like.
That's a good question though. Can they beat the Chiefs? I'm still a little skeptical with that defense, man. Like you're saying, like them being 32nd in the league against tight ends, and they have the best tight end. Did they improve to be able to, like, did they get the players that they needed to improve in that statistic? Right now, I'm going to say no. There are still like some opportunities to get guys because free agency is still obviously going on. And I'm pretty sure after the draft, they said that they were still planning on adding people. It's just obviously the whole cap situation. That's one part of the NFL that I know nothing about. So I could sit here and say that they can get somebody, and then somebody that's watching this is like, well, actually, they only have this amount of money, blah, 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 so it's not even technically possible. So I don't even know what to say about it.
I think they'd have to restructure Williams, and at least Darius Williams. They'd have to restructure his deal. And I was going to say they could probably try to restructure Cam Robinson, but now that's probably unlikely. I don't see that happening. So, anything's
trade
possible.
Though.
Yeah, trade. Yeah, you could trade
because
Robinson.
Cam is good. He's a good, tackle.
Yeah. So, you can try to get that money off the books with a trade. So, but who knows? They
got some picks for next year.
Yeah, and they could get a guy like Frank Clark. They could get Leonard Floyd, I think, who's out there, defensive end. There's been talks of Chase Young, possibly something, maybe like some trade deals going on there with potential teams that want him. So, I would be okay with anything to help the pass rush. So, I know he's had some injury trouble, but I like Chase Young, so I would be okay with it.
Yeah, no, I don't see anyone on this defensive line that's anything close to what Calais Campbell gave to this team. I'm really anticipating to see what Trayvon Walker, see what kind of different pass rush packages he's been able to develop over this offseason. And as rookies, it's really tough to develop that rookie season because all you're working on the combine, you're working on your 40, you're working on just being a better athlete in general. And he didn't really have a lot of time to be able to develop, that one particular specific skill. So I am really interested to see how he does. I just that I think they need a stud on the defensive line to be able to rotate with Trayvon Walker until he's able to kind of take the reins himself. But right now it's still kind of concerning in terms of the pass rush.
Yeah, agreed. But you see the Jaguars. What's your record prediction? You think they're going to be 10-7 or what?
So they play at home, obviously the AFC South teams, which I still think they come out on top. The Texans definitely got some good players, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull it together this soon. I mean, I obviously thought that about the Jaguars last season, but I think, they're a little too young, I think, just yet. So I think they're going to get wins. They may lose just one of those games in the AFC South just because, it's in the division. But the Ravens, I think they could get a win there. The Bengals will definitely be tough, but I think they can beat the Falcons. They could beat the Panthers. It's the Chiefs and the Niners. Those are obviously the hardest teams in terms of this is just the home games. Now the away, Browns, Steelers, Saints, I think they can, and Bucks, I think they can get wins against all of those teams. Saints, obviously, that's going to be a tough one. Olave is really good, and like I mentioned earlier, I think the Jaguars give up they're bottom 5 against number 1 wide receivers. So that's going to be a little bit tough. But I think that they can get W's against all of those teams. And then there's the Bills, which is going to be tough. And I think I don't know if it was while we were on air or if it was before when I said that the Bills were obviously, I think they're going to take a step, this upcoming season. Last season was just, I mean, they should have gotten a little bit further than what they did. So I think that's definitely going to be a tough game. But I think they can get 12 wins. Think they can maybe go 12-5. So that's going to be my record.
Okay.
12-5. Or wait, it would be 12-4 because the bye week.
Do they I thought they played 17 games, right?
Well, with the bye week, right?
I think you're
Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I think it's 12. To be 12 and 13 and I forget what did you say again? Was it 12? Did you say 12 wins?
I said 12 and either 5 or 4, I guess, depending. But I mean, 4 is not a lot. I don't know. I see them getting maybe 5 losses.
Okay.
But so yeah.
All right.
9
that's
and
optimistic.
8 is 17.
Yeah.
So I'm an idiot. So
no.
It would be 5.
They did.
Yeah.
They
So
changed
12-5.
Yeah, 12-5. Okay. Yeah. I think maybe, I don't know, for me maybe 11-6. I think maybe they have one kind of game they lie maybe a game or two where they lay an egg, but against a team that they should be kind of like that Detroit game, last season. So, but hey, this was awesome, Laurie. Thanks for coming on the show again. Always awesome talking Jags with you. Do you have anything you want to promote or any videos you're doing?
Guys, just go over to my YouTube channel. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be putting some clips together on Antonio Johnson. I think he's a really surprising pick. I think he's going to kind of be one to flourish. So that's definitely something to watch there on my YouTube channel. And then I'm setting up my Substack, so I'm going to start releasing some articles on that too. So, and obviously on Twitter, guys. That's it.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys later.
Let me get that. JYD coming up with the big sack. Quarterbacks beware, we on the prowl. Game day night, you could hear it in our growl. Intimidation on to keep their hearts racing. Eating other teams live on TV front of the nation. Spectacular defensive.
This episode is available on the Jaguar Podcast YouTube channel. So if you stop by, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. Also, these episodes are available on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and other major podcast distributors as well. So if you don't mind, please leave me a review and some feedback. I'd really appreciate that. If you'd like to connect with me on social media, my Twitter handle is @JagWarPodcast. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. This is Andrew signing off. Cheers.